How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology. Welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for October 28th, right? Yeah, through November 4th of 2019. Thank you guys so much for being here and liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys today. I don't have my fancy lights all set up because I have to leave to the airport in like 15 minutes. Otherwise, I'm going to miss my flight. So we're going to go through this a little bit quicker. And I also just got done doing all of the 2020 year ahead horoscopes. So I know you guys aren't going to be watching this until tomorrow morning on Monday, but later on this week, I will be posting my 2020 year ahead horoscopes. And that's why I was laughing, because I just got done recording like all of them, and so having to do this last second is just super funny to me. But anyway, can we get into this week's highlights? This week's highlights, we have the new moon in Scorpio that we just got off of on Sunday, which left us, it's been a little crazy, I'm sure. I've read all the stories on Twitter and shit like that. But this week we had that new moon in Scorpio with Mars squaring Saturn, of course. A lot of hard work to get through the way. But later on this week, we're going to be having Mercury conjoin Venus right before we have Mercury Retrograde. And I think this Mercury conjoin Venus is going to give us a lot of a better sense of ideas and give us a clearer understanding of what exactly this Mercury in retrograde is going to bring to us, because it brings a little bit of that Venus and Scorpio sweet sourness into it. But also this week, we're going to be having Mercury finally station retrograde. I feel like I've been talking about this Mercury retrograde forever, but it finally gets to happen this week, where all of the truth kind of gets to be revealed and all of the secrets kind of come out. Nothing really gets away from Scorpio because they see it all. They're locked in there. And as Mercury retrogrades right here, where we get to rethink and revisit things, this is where all of that stuff that's been hidden underneath the layers starts to come out this week. And this new moon was just the beginning of it. But also after that, after Mercury stations retrograde, the last big thing that we've got going on this week is Venus entering Sagittarius, which is so exciting, especially for me. But Venus, as she's been in Scorpio, that's her detriment. She doesn't have all of the tools that she needs there. She's not, doesn't have unlimited access to resources like she normally would. So it's been a little bit difficult for Venus to have fun. And to quote West from over on Twitter, the mutual reception between Mars and Libra and Venus and Scorpio has been kind of shit since they've been in an inversion with each other. So as Venus moves into Sagittarius, I think things are going to get a lot more fun. Venus, this planet of love and value, in this exciting sign of Sagittarius, looking to find another journey, go down another road, see what else is over there for Venus and Sagittarius. And I think that that's going to help us start this next week coming up in a lot better tone than we got onto it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the horoscope. So like I said earlier, we are starting Monday off with getting off of this new moon in Scorpio, but Mars is still squaring Saturn at this time. So although we're still in this space of kind of resetting our energy and refocusing in our dials, kind of making sure our scope is correct, there is still a blockage here. With Mars in Libra, it's like, which way do I act? Which way do I go? Mars is like, I want the best of both worlds, but Saturn isn't really allowing that. So my question to you is, what's worth it more? What's actually going to be worth whatever decision that you make? Which action are you going to take? And I think while this new moon is starting to come away from the sun, and once it starts gaining more light, we'll have a better idea of what's going to be best for us. But while Mars is squaring Saturn on Monday, don't expect to go anywhere too fast. I would definitely expect to, be clear, be consistent, know what you're focusing on, that new moon and Scorpio stuff of what needs to get felt, what needs to get addressed, what needs to get penetrated in a sense. But with all of that energy going on, don't expect to act out on it instantaneously. Expect for it to be a little bit slow still. Expect for you to have a little bit more patience. But also on Monday, we're going to be having the moon actually make a trine to Neptune. So this gives us a lot more creative energy to work with what our result can look like. And so I think that that's going to be important as we start Monday off. But then once we get into Tuesday on October 29th is when we're going to have the moon make a conjunction to Mercury and Venus all in Scorpio. And I think this is going to be the time where we really realize and we get our scope just right to be locked into our target that we're looking for. Because as the moon conjoins Mercury and Venus, and it conjoins Venus, we're starting to see the worthiness of where our scope is dialed. Once the moon conjoins Mercury, it's getting that clear communication with our mind, our soul, our body of what exactly it is that we want, what exactly it is that we're looking for. Whatever house Scorpio rules in your chart, that's going to be more specific for you. But Scorpio themes are like being driven, being like piercing, being like, very emotionally, I don't want to say stable, but not that you're not emotionally stable, but This is a fixed sign. Like, whatever you're feeling, it's going to stay that way. And as the moon conjoins Mercury, you're going to be thinking that way too. The good news is on Tuesday, though, the moon goes into Sagittarius, which is very fun. This is uplifting. This gives us a little bit of a breath of fresh air to work with, because with all of that Scorpio energy, it was kind of intense. It was kind of a lot. As the moon moves into Sagittarius, we get to breathe a little bit lighter. We get to, after we focus our pinpoints, we get to see a bigger vision of what can be. We get to play more around with those ideas, and I think that's what the most exciting thing about Tuesday is. But then as we get into Wednesday on October 30th is when we're going to have Venus conjoin Mercury. Now, this is a little bit weird because this is where Mercury is stationing retrograde, so you're kind of expecting, this to not make too much sense. But as Venus conjoins Mercury here, Mercury in Scorpio is kind of like digging through all the files, making sure it has everything right, and it's kind of going insane with all of its plans. Venus coming up to Mercury is kind of like, you might have been going crazy with this, but this is a good idea. This is looking nice, but have you overthought this? Are you placing your value in the right place? Because Venus and Scorpio can get very attached to things very quickly, which isn't always a bad thing, but can definitely be a bad thing sometimes. So before Mercury gets overwhelmed with what it's focused on, make sure that's what you want to focus on. Because once Mercury goes retrograde, there's no going back. Like, once you, and the thing is too with Mercury conjoining Venus, it's going to be weird because Mercury is over here thinking, I know all the plans, I know all the details, I know exactly what's going to happen, I'm locked into my target. Venus comes through. It's looking good. Everyone loves it. But then we get into Thursday on Halloween when Mercury stations retrograde, and it's kind of like, oh, maybe that wasn't right. Maybe I wanted to do something different. Maybe I wanted to focus in on something different. And I think that's what this Mercury retrograde shift is really going to be, kind of going from, oh, this looks good, to maybe I need to dial my scope in a little bit clearer. Maybe I need to look below the surface a little bit more. And how much deeper can I really go? And on Thursday as well, while Mercury is stationing retrograde, we have the moon conjoining Jupiter. So it's kind of like it gives us a chance to think about this and reflect on it philosophically, to kind of go hey, is this in alignment with what I believe? Is this what I want to grow into? Is this what's going to work for me? And this Mercury retrograde, it's Mercury and Scorpio can get so fixated on certain things, and as it goes retrograde, we gotta review that. What are we getting so focused on that, we might have thought was good, but, sometimes shit happens and shit changes. As Mercury goes retrograde, where can we think about this a little bit deeper? Where can we go more under the surface? And what I love about this time right now in history, or just more specifically this year, is Robert Mueller came out with the Mueller report with the Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Worst time ever to do it. Nothing was clear. No one knew what the fuck it said. Half of it was redacted. Then Mueller came out with his testimony in July during the other Mercury retrograde, where nothing was still clear, nothing still was addressed. It was just a need, because that was the Mercury retrograde in Cancer. It was the country needed to hear that. But now we get into Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, and now the Mueller investigation is being investigated. And it's what is going to be buried under the surface that we thought was taken care of, that is going to get lifted back up again and get brought back up? And I think that Mueller report thing is going to be a very interesting turning point for that, but I think it's going to be a good analogy to use for this Mercury retrograde. But then as we go into Friday on November 1st, this is when we're going to be having the moon go into Capricorn. Shit gets serious, like it has been every time the moon moves into Capricorn. It's time to kind of take away from the reflective side, and it's kind of like when you are doing something with your hands, you can focus on some certain subject or something that you want to focus on. It gives you time to think, it gives you time to reflect, it gives you time to process. It's kind of like what's good about the moon in Capricorn is it gives you that time to reflect and process. And as the moon goes into Capricorn, it's also going to be conjoining the South Node in Saturn. So again, there's this theme of what's holding us back, what's in our way, what do we need to wrap up here? But the good news is on Friday is Venus moves into Sagittarius, and it's time to party, in essence. Venus wants to explore. Venus wants to not have limits. Venus wants to have fun. Venus wants to see what the potential is when it's in Sagittarius. And this is so exciting because during this time, Scorpio season, all the Saturn bullshit and the Mercury retrograde, it can be really easy to not, to be focused on that and not have fun. This Venus going to Sagittarius, have some fun. let loose a little bit. Go discover, go explore, go have a journey, go see what's out there. And that doesn't mean just with relationships with Venus and Sag. This means like go have some fun, go do something new you've never done before. Like this is Venus and Sag, and it's going to be getting closer and closer to Jupiter. You have the two benefics right next to each other. Like, use it while you can. Go have some fun while you can, especially as Venus goes into Sagittarius. And then once we get into Saturday on November 2nd, that's when we're going to have the moon conjoining Pluto, but squaring Mars. And Mars is also going to be squaring Pluto at the same time. And this is where things kind of change a little bit deeper, because with Mars squaring Saturn, there was kind of like a halt in action there. But with Mars squaring Pluto, it's kind of like, I can't just sit here and idle. I've got, demons following me. I've got shit chasing after me. I can't just sit here and stop. The question becomes, what road are you going to take? You're kind of at a crossroads here, and even though you can go have fun with Venus and Sag and Mercury's in retrograde and Scorpio, you don't know all the answers and the truth just yet. You still sometimes have to make some decisions along the way, and that's okay. If you mess up, whatever. Life goes on. But choose something. This is Mars and Libra. We can do this fucking number all day long. Like, choose something, stick with it, go with it. And then once we get into Sunday, because that's basically Saturday, like this weekend has nothing going on, because then on Sunday, the moon moves into Aquarius, where it gets a little bit more of a breath of fresh air, but it's still focused on that Saturn stuff. It's still focused on very serious matters. So Sunday this isn't going to be the most fun and exciting weekend, but during Sunday, at least we get some time to reflect and connect ourselves to different ideas and to different feelings that can help us interpret what's going on for us. And then by the time we get into on the Monday, on November 4th, is when we actually have Mars squaring Pluto. And this is that time where, like with the moon conjoining Pluto squaring Mars, it was kind of like, this is kind of a little bit deep. I need to do something now. Mars squaring Pluto on Monday is like, it's time to decide. Pick a path. Even if you mess up, it's okay. You can do it again later. But also on Monday, the moon's going to be in Aquarius squaring the sun in Scorpio. And so I bring this up because I usually don't talk about the moon and sun aspects, but I bring this up because as the moon is squaring the sun, this is kind of like, while you might have more open ideas and possibilities of what you can get, it's kind of like you're finding solutions for yourself is what you're doing. The sun in Scorpio isn't liking all of the solutions. The sun in Scorpio is like, no, I want it my way. It's got to be this way. This is the only way I see it. And the moon in Aquarius is kind of like, it may not happen. You kind of might have to do it, not that way. It might do another solution. And that's going to be kind of frustrating. But that's Scorpio season for you. And that's how we kind of start next week. Here's the good fucking news, though. Like, nothing is happening next week. Like, literally nothing. Like, the moon moves around, and that's about it. The only thing happening next week is the full moon in Taurus while Mercury goes Cazimi, but that's not until next Monday. So we have a whole week of no super crazy transits going on, just Mercury's now retrograde. So I want you guys to use this week as a breath. Let this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio help you think about some shit, get some shit cleared up so you can start to move forward. But this is the week where you're going to feel this supercharged up new moon in Scorpio. Random shit's going to happen. Mercury's going to go retrograde. All of a sudden we have more information than we did before. Venus is in Sag. We're not giving a fuck. We're doing whatever we want. And we get to chill out for a little bit as we get into next week. Whew, long day of recording for me. I've got to get to the airport. So thank you guys so much again for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. And I'll be seeing you next week.